Okay, here's a video on how I would use the scan data for adding gems or working with in general in Matrix. And so, as we can see, the scan data is it's a very, very dense mesh, tons of triangles, and the fact that it is a mesh object means that it doesn't have the ability to do all the tool set that Matrix has. Okay, you can do some things to it, but not all of our tools will work with it. And so ideally we would get this into a NURBS geometry state. Now, one really quick, easy thing that I do to work with an object like this is a quick way to convert it to a surface is with the drape command. Okay, and so let's go ahead and try drape, and on its own, auto spacing yes and spacing equals 5. If we drag a box around that, we'll get a draped surface. Let's go ahead and we'll click on the dog, and let's put it on another layer and turn it off. So there is, and so you can see drape stretches it and goes in one direction only, but there is enough information right there to work with our gem tools and so on. The other thing that we can do is smooth this out some, and so if we go to the transform menu, so smooth is right here, and I'm going to set the smooth factor to 0.5 and hit OK. And as you can see, that will smooth this out. I'll go ahead and click it again, and right click and hit it one more time there. So now that surface is pretty smooth, and you can certainly use this way if this happens to be something that you're what we can do is draw a plane like so, and then let's go ahead and move this down there and then say you get split by you, and there's that trimmed out anyway. That too, as far as that goes. Okay, so now that we have this as a NURB surface, and we can see that here, okay, and if it needed to be even smoother, we could rebuild the surface as far as that goes. Having said that, let's go ahead and use some gem tools here. So we can go here, we'll get a 1.5 millimeter and say on surface right there. And when we click on the surface, all depends on what we want to do now. Maybe we want to set gems on the body of the dog, and you can see I'm going until both circles are green. That means that I'm matching the spacing between those 2 stones or 3 stones, all depends, so that they don't hit each other, etc. So that's what that means. So you can get a pretty even layout very quickly, and although we do have pave tools and so on, I would I don't know who's going to set that one, but I tend to use a tool like this just because you have a little more control as to where the stones are going to go, and it really is not taking me that long to set these. And you can also, I can make the stone go up and down off the surface. I can rotate the stone, or I can make it bigger or smaller by hitting Q and E. I'm just hitting keys on the keyboard, but here's the different. So anyway, that's how we can do that. And we could just sit and take care of all that. At that point, we could turn back on the mesh and turn off this, and there we go. These are going off the edge. The other neat thing is that we control these gems independently. In other words, if we go in and hit F6 now and go to RMSR, okay, this is the box, the information box. If that's in the way, you can turn those off. Okay, and now this will control all the gems together going in or out, because I have them all selected, and they know which way their north and south poles are, etc. Then we can come in here and hit F6 again and say gem cutter, and I'll go ahead and pick this cutter here, and we can still cut this even though it's a mesh. Okay, and so if we come over here and select the mesh and go to mesh, and we can do mesh Boolean difference, and then it wants to know what are the cutters, and so I pick the orange cutters you can see are selected, and I'll hit enter. Okay, so here you can see the mesh has been cut by those cutters, and there's I didn't do them all, but there's actual seats cut for the for those stones, and so that's I did these right here. So and then of course we can do prongs on these as well, and there's several different ways to do that. You can set these up like in a row. Let's see how this works. Prongs. There we go. And so here's the size of the prong. And how high it is and where it's located. Okay, so let's just hit enter there. So there's a row of prongs set up, and it'll also share these other gems as well. Okay, and so we can certainly set that up that way. And this is the way that I prefer to do the prongs, based on that. I like to do these in rows, and then get rid of the ones that are redundant. So we might say ungroup, and this one prong there we can get rid of, and this one as well if it's not needed, or if it is needed, we can certainly move it around so that it works where it should be, like so. There we go. All right, so that's how we can do some of that. And all the while we have the base surface that we can work on and use. And then of course, Matrix has a very nice render engine in Tsplines, or in, I'm sorry, not Tsplines, in V-Ray. And so, white gold, and let's load in a prop here, a backdrop, and there we go. So we'll go ahead, and we made that white gold. Let's do the prongs in white gold as well. And then we'll do the gems as diamonds. There we go. All right, and we'll switch this to 700 by 700, and we'll hit render. And here comes that. Okay, so I thought I would talk. So there's one example of how we could quickly work on that object and still have it be that object. Okay, but there's more that we can do with this object as far as matrix goes. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and throw this away, and I'll bring out the original object. Okay, so here's the original scan data back. And of course we have a part of the program that we license called Tsplines. And so we'll go ahead and start Tsplines. And let me roll up layers there. Okay, so in Tsplines we have the append command right here. And what we can do is we can actually draw right on this surface and create a T-spline surface from this data, following the scan data. What that lets us do is manipulate this object so we can turn it back into an object that can be pushed and pulled and so on. Also, what it does is it allows us to convert the whole dog to a NURBS polysurface. So this part, what this does is this allows you to draw a T-spline surface, okay? And so there's a surface, etc. Okay. What we can do though is do the retopo, which is topology, snap equals yes. So there it equals yes, and the offset is how close to the surface it's going to draw, and so I'm going to go 0.3 off that surface. Okay, so now what I can do, let's see, I don't know if I want to go quite that far. Let's go 0.1. Okay. So now what we can do is we can click right on this surface. Okay. And now on an object that is asymmetrical like this, you know, if we had the dog sitting and looking straight at us, then that would be a little more symmetrical, and we would be able to mirror this from one side to the other. But based on that, we would have to cover this whole thing. And I'll tell you, once you start to get going, it's not that labor intensive. You do have to understand a little bit about topology as to how you would want to lay this out and how coarse and fine you would want to make these pieces. So here we're going to want to follow the shape of the eye and put in enough sections such that that it would make sense as to how we could push and pull this. So there you can see that we can start to, and here we would want to go in and have this be closer together, like so. There we go. I think you get the idea. Once you start, you kind of can't stop. There. And there's other tools that we could rely on to start to get a sphere in here and so on. But we would just keep drawing and keep manipulating these panel surfaces until we covered the dog. And then you can go back in, if you don't have enough lines, you can insert, you can subdivide and insert sections and so on. But so that is one methodology to convert this back into not only a T-spline surface, but a NURB surface as well. The other way that we would handle this with far fewer steps than what this is with another program that we would recommend called ZBrush. And if you want to see that real quick, I can show that interface and the power of what it can do. Okay, so here we are inside of ZBrush. And so here we imported the STL, the scan, and so in ZBrush what we want to do is we'll go over to geometry and we can do a ZRemeasure. And so what it does is it'll maintain all the different areas around the eyes up here and the eyelids and so on, and it'll put down the correct topology much like I was doing with the Tsplines data. And so when we go ahead and do that, there you can see that it's been re-topologized, if you will. And there it was it does an excellent job, and you can see all the quad mesh as far as that goes. And down in here around the eyes and so on has all the detail that it had. Now it's not going to have the texture, so if we want that, we'll have to maintain the STL originally. But what we can do is we can now come over here and we would want to export this as an OBJ file, because that's going to keep that quad mesh. If you were going to go straight to rapid prototyping, then we would go and do just an STL. And so here we're coming over into Matrix, and in Matrix we can import that OBJ. So here's the object imported as an OBJ file from ZBrush, and you can see that the topology is very good. It's all quad meshed. Here we can do it this way too. There we go. It's all quad meshed and ready to go, and we can come in and convert this from Tsplines into a Rhino surface. Okay, and there it is. This is now, if we click on this and go to object information, which is right here, all object info, you can now see that this is a valid poly surface. And now all our tools that we've been using, like GemLoader, let's go ahead and turn Tsplines off and on surface. Okay, so now let's turn off O-snaps as well. So now we're back to what we were doing before, and that is doing a... So depending on too, the beauty of what this has done, this is a really bad one here. That was poor placement. Depending on how you want this to look, you'll also notice that this smoothed out all that texture, and you may or may not want that. But I think with these different ways of getting the data into Matrix, there's a solution in there for no matter how you want this to look. All right, hope this video helps.